Hello there, everyone. My name is Jimmy Mack, and welcome back to the second academic podcast. This is going to be the NS3 textbook, Unit 5, Chapter 17, Naval Ship and Aircraft Guns. Now, guns are pretty great at being used for weapons because they can be used against surface, shore, and air targets. Most of the guns we use today are automatic, which means the action of firing them provides recoil that in turn ejects the powder case and reloads the gun. Ship guns that are designed for using against both air and surface targets are called dual-purpose systems. Now, you all know what a gun is, but there is some other terms that you do need to know. First off, the tube at the end of a gun is called a barrel, and inside of it is what is called the bore. The bore is rifled, meaning that it has spirals inside of it carved into the bore so that the bullet spins when it comes out. This improves accuracy. Now, it's important to be able to talk about how big a gun is, because that's important information. I feel like I shouldn't really have to justify that. And there's a lot of ways you can measure it. First off, you can measure the diameter of a gun. Normally, that's done in millimeters, but for older guns, you do that with inches. For guns smaller than 3 inches in bore diameter, you can measure that in caliber, which can either be millimeters or decimal fractions of an inch, and that is not actually clear when you name it. So a 20 caliber machine gun has a 20 millimeter bore diameter, but a 32 caliber revolver has a .32 inch bore diameter, so that kind of sucks. But if your gun is bigger than 3 inches in bore diameter, the diameter is specified in millimeters or inches, and then you specify the length with caliber just to make it confusing. And the way the caliber works is you divide the length by the diameter of the bore. So that is kind of annoying. Anyway, there are 3 different size classes you can break up naval warship guns into. Those are minor, meaning that the bore diameter is less than 4 inches. Intermediate, meaning the bore diameter is between 4 and 8 inches, and major, meaning the bore diameter is 8 inches or more. And major guns are so big that we don't actually have any currently in service. It's also important to know where you can fire your gun. So the mount is the way that the gun is attached to a ship or aircraft. The arc of elevation is the amount of vertical aiming space you have, so it's like an angle measure, how far you can rotate it up or down. The arc of train is the same thing but horizontally. And a cutout cam is a machine that you have on the inside of the gun that prevents it from being fired when it's pointed at a part of the ship's structure, because that would be pretty bad. Finally, you need to know how far you can fire a gun, which is called the effective range. This has been greatly increased by rocket-assisted projectiles, which is just putting a rocket on the back of a bullet to make it go farther. Ammunition can be broken up into 2 parts. There's the propelling charge, or the propellant, and a projectile. The projectile is exactly what you think. It's the part that hits stuff, and the propelling charge is the stuff like gunpowder that makes it go there. Now, all of this is combined into one big case. That entire thing is called case ammunition. And all modern naval guns use either semi-fixed or fixed case ammunition. Semi-fixed consists of a projectile and a separate case charge, and you load them one after the other. But fixed ammunition means that the projectile and powder case are permanently attached, like you'd see with a regular rifle cartridge. That's more commonly used in smaller guns. Now, when we hit something with a gun, we're obviously trying to do damage to it, and how we do that damage depends on the design of the projectile, which is the part expelled at high speed to go do damage to things. They have 3 main parts. That's the metallic body, there is the fuse, which is going to set off the main charge, and an explosive burster charge. If you have a solid bullet, that's really only going to have the body, and it's just going to damage purely by the impact. But many gun projectiles use blast and fragmentation to deal their damage. The pointed nose of a projectile is called an ogive, or ogive. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. It's Oscar, Golf, India, Victor, Echo. And the bore is in fact rifled in order to make the projectile move more accurately. Now, there are a whole bunch of different types of projectiles for a whole bunch of different types of purposes. In particular, you've got penetrating projectiles, which are meant to break through armor. You've got fragmenting projectiles, which do damage by blast and fragmentation. And you have special purpose projectiles, which are like more specific in their use. You've got illuminating projectiles, which light up an enemy so that you can get more information. You've got incendiary projectiles, which contain white phosphorus and light stuff on fire to cause chaos. You've got chaff projectiles, which scatter metal strips in the air that can affect radar. You've got non-fragmenting projectiles, which make a burst of orange smoke and are used for target practice. And then you've also got target projectiles for surface gunnery target practice. Now, the fuse detonates the projectile. When you hear the word fuse, you usually think of a timer system, but it can be really anything. Most fuses are classified as impact, time, or proximity. Impact fuses detonate the projectile on impact with the target. Proximity fuses use radio waves to detect how close the target is, and time fuses are the classic ones where it just waits a certain amount of time and blows up. The mechanical time fuse uses a clock mechanism, and it was popular around World War II, but recently it's been replaced with the controlled variable time fuse, which is set electronically and then delays for a set time, and then it arms. Our biggest guns on warships are the Mark 45 5-inch 54 and 62 caliber guns that we've got on Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and Ticonderoga-class cruisers. They're pretty humongous. They've got a whole bunch of stats, but no way in heck you remember those. The other important thing to know is that we've got a phalanx close-in weapons system, which is a whole bunch of guns designed to be a last-ditch weapon against an anti-ship cruise missile. Guns on planes can also be very important, especially in air-to-air combat. Now, up until the end of World War II, most of the armament of an aircraft consisted of small to mid-size Gatling guns mounted on the wings, but in Vietnam and Korea, we started adding Gatling guns mounted below the fuselage. And as of right now, most of our planes have those sort of fuselage-mounted guns, including the F-14 Top Cat that was featured in the acclaimed movie Top Gun. That is the exact wording the textbook uses. It wants you to know what kind of ship was used in Top Gun, so that's the F-14 Tomcat, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of this chapter. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.